Women ask for raises at roughly the same rate as men. Women ask at roughly the same rate, and yet we receive raises less often. Enough already! You've worked harder, stayed later, smiled through it, you've shrunk yourself, you've overexplained yourself, you've apologized for yourself, and still walked away feeling like you were the problem. You weren't. You've been playing by rules that were never designed for you, and you're exhausted. You're done. I'm Coach Mo Fall, and this is Enough Already, the podcast for women who are done performing and ready to heal, reclaim, and redefine what their life actually gets to look like when you step into your real power. No more shrinking, no more trying to be less or more, or whatever they need you to be. We're going to name exactly what happened, get free from it, and figure out what comes next. This is your space. This is your moment. Women, we are rising. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Enough Already. I am Coach Mo Fall, and I want to start today with a number. According to research published by McKinsey, leanin.org, and multiple independent labor economists, women ask for raises at roughly the same rate as men. Women ask for raises at roughly the same rate as men. I want you to hear that again because it contradicts one of the most common things women are told about why they are underpaid and why they're not making what men make. Women ask at roughly the same rate, and yet we receive raises less often. And when we do negotiate, we are significantly more likely to be described as aggressive, difficult, or my personal favorite, not a team player. So let me summarize. We ask, we get told no more, and then we get penalized socially for the audacity of having asked. You are not the problem. Today, I want to show you what happens when a woman decides to go back, not for the first time she asked, not the first no, the moment after the no, when everything in her training told her to be grateful for what she was offered. And she decided that grateful was not the same as done. I want to talk about a few different clients who have lived this story. And I'm going to tell their stories and tell it as factually and specifically as possible. But first, I want to set something up because negotiation with a current company, this particular client started months before we ever worked together and months before she felt she was ready for it. She started the conversation, the negotiation with a 3-page ask. And she was told no. A few days later, she came across my work. She clicked on it and we got started coaching. And frankly, the pissed offness she said that she had came out in the coaching sessions. And I said to her, we're going to have to go deep into who you are and where your power is. Because that no started with how they see you. And so we got right into the soul work. Most negotiation advice will tell you anchor high, use silence, know your number. And you know what? I coach on all of that and it's all useful, but none of it addresses the thing that causes most women to fold before they ever sit down, or the passive aggressive way that they're going to ask, the belief that they are asking for more than they deserve. When you do not know or own your worth, not your market value, your actual worth, strategy is a bandage on a wound that needs surgery. That is where we started. That is where we always start, on the deeper worthiness feeling. And that needs to be patched up deeply, and foundation needs to be laid like a cement holding up a pole. So I want to say this about this particular client. She was coachable. She said, I need to do it differently. And you know what she said? Approximately a week into our coaching, she said, I need to leave. I've been here too long. I've been putting up with this too long. I haven't gotten an increased job title. I haven't moved forward, and I just keep getting underpaid. And how do I know that? She said to me, is because I am one of the board members of the local professional organization. And she was sitting in her unworthiness, even though she was very active in her professional community and a very, very good professional. She was an engineer. And I will tell you this, when we coached her on the inside, she began to see how she had been holding back in a lot of ways in her life. Because an unworthiness wound does not just happen at work. A lot of times this comes from our upbringing. And frankly, all the women we've ever coached, they have the receipts for their success, as she did, including client testimonials and commentary about how helpful and great she was changing systems for them. So we have to understand the foundation of the negotiations for women is what we feel about ourselves and what we say. What we feel about ourselves and what we say. And if we don't feel worthy, if we don't have the foundation, what we say, how we say it is going to come across as weak. Not because you want it to be. You don't want it to come across as weak. You may actually be practicing this with friends or partners. And you know what? The first reaction that you get, the pushback, is not just the reaction. It is you beginning to get yourself into your power. This is a really important thing because most women have a near miss. There's like, I almost got it, and then, oh, I didn't. And there's not enough power in that conversation. And there's not enough power in what you're telling yourself. When you finally do get a yes, it feels like $1,000,000. And that is because you have the foundation of your soul. So this particular client did the soul work. And there's a lot of details about the soul work that I do with my clients. It's multidimensional, and it does get into personal wounds. The times where you were wrong, the times you were pushed aside. Oftentimes, some women are bringing some illness, some sickness, some family issues that they feel less than about, that they know they're carrying a burden that doesn't get carried equally. And so we feel weaker in the workplace when this happens. I know I had a tendency to do that when I came through my breast cancer. I felt a little weak. I felt that my company did so good for me that I owed them something. And this particular engineer felt the same way because she had a bit of a sickness along the way. She stayed for 20 years because she felt that she owed them to stay that long. And she had literally put hundreds and hundreds of $1,000s of underpayment on the table. When we got into that soul work, the first thing that cracked, the first story that she realized that didn't belong to her, was accepting the situation and not feeling empowered to change it. So she sent this 3-page letter. Her boss said, nope, we're paying you enough. We're paying you exactly what we think you're worth. And she felt 1,000 stab wounds. She felt that deep emptiness and sickness, almost like she was going to vomit of the psychic wound. She didn't want to walk back into the room and ask for more. She knew that her identity at that company was basically sealed. And she knew that in order to really get where she wanted to go, she needed to move on. And that's the work we got to. We were doing the foundational work of her worth, and we were debriefing what was going on for her. But let me tell you this. When she landed opportunities and interviews, she knew exactly what her worth was. It was about $50,000 to $65,000 more than what she was being paid for so many years. And we grounded her in that. Not just a mental game, but deeply in her soul, aligned. We grounded her in that worthiness, and that compensation level. And let me say this, you always end an ask with a strong foundation of your worth, as if that was like a nothing ask. So when you're sitting on a number, when you are owning it, the conversation goes differently. So as she was interviewing, and she had 3 very powerful offers, we made sure she knew in each of those interview final stages how to make sure that the salary offer was at that new worthiness, and that she didn't let the past freak her out or weaken her ever again. She was so grateful. And as a matter of fact, between jobs, she went on a girls' trip, and she's living her best life now. And I know that might sound so cliche-ish, but I'm going to tell you this. When you step into your power and you finally own who you are and what you bring, you can build on that in your entire life. You can build on that in how you show up with friends. As a matter of fact, she built on that with how she showed up in her professional association also. Funny enough, she was presenting at that professional association meeting, and she knew the disparity in her pay and how she was being treated with how she was really valuable in the workplace, in her profession. And that framework we used for her is underneath every woman's story we've coached. The negotiation she had, the one where she went back and didn't get it, and she knew she needed to move on, and she owned that decision, and she owned her power, and we helped her not only empower herself, but we gave her everything she needed. So what do you believe you deserve? Not what does the market say you are worth, not what is the salary band for your role. Those questions do matter, and we get to them. But first, what do you believe you deserve for what you bring to the table? Because here is what I have learned from 2,000 coaching sessions, well, more than that, coaching sessions, 2,000 clients. Your beliefs about your own worth set the ceiling on every negotiation you will ever have. Not your manager's opinion, not your company's budget, your belief. If you walk into a negotiation already convinced you are asking for too much, you will accept less than you are worth every single time, because the energy you're holding is not strong. And you thank them for being underpaid and just getting a little bit. I want to say this as well. This is how I prepare women for high stakes negotiations. 3 parts in this order. Are you ready? Time to bring out the journal and make some notes. Part 1 is the evidence audit. Before you prepare a single talking point, I want you to document what you have already delivered in the last 12 months. Not just your job description, your impact, specific numbers, specific outcomes, specific moments where your presence changed the trajectory of something. This is your evidence. It is not a brag document. Yes, it is. It is a fact document. But most women shy away from those facts because, like, well, I was with the team, etc. No. Part 2 is your story audit. What story are you telling yourself about this ask? Write it down and then ask, is this mine or was it given to me? Most women discover that the story they are running, they are holding, I should be grateful. Asking for more will make me look greedy. They will think I'm not a team player. All of that was handed to you by someone who did not have your interests at heart. Name that story for yourself and challenge it, and then replace it. Part 3, the walk-in practice. I want you to say your number out loud, alone, before you are in the room. Say it in the mirror, say it in your car, say it until the number stops feeling like you're asking for a favor and starts feeling like you are stating a fact. And say it in the long way, $175,000 a year. And feel like you've already earned it. Feel like the conversation is just the delivery of something that's already going to be happening. The negotiation does not start at the table. It starts with what you believe you deserve. This is the beginning of every successful conversation and negotiation. And one more thing, I want to say this directly. If they offer you a title without the money, and they may, sometimes they do this, because it's a well-worn tactic. Here's the sentence. Thank you. Can we talk about compensation as well? That is the sentence. Write it down. Stop, pause, replay. Put it in your phone. Say it exactly like that. Not, I was also hoping to discuss. You do not hope. I was wondering if. You are not wondering. You say, can we talk about compensation as well? And then you wait. The silence is not awkward. It's the space where the real negotiation begins. Say it, own it, and stop. A great negotiation ends at the ask, and you let that other person walk into your ask. The stop is the one thing to begin doing. It starts holding the truth, and you have to carry that. So here's the one thing to stop. I always promise in my podcast. So stop accepting titles as a substitute for compensation. A title is not a raise. A new responsibility without new pay is not a promotion. It's additional labor. And if they give you a title and you asked for a number, say the sentence, say it every time. Write it down. Okay. One thing to start this week. This week, I want you to do the evidence audit. Open a document right now after this episode, not eventually. Write down the 3 most significant things you have delivered in the last 12 months. And if you don't need to go back 12 months, don't. 3 things that would not have happened the same way without you. Just 3. And you will be surprised at how many more come once you open it up. Once you start, you will realize all that you have accomplished. And here's the truth for you to carry forward. I am talking to someone who has been sitting on an ask for a long time. You have been telling yourself the timing is not right. The market is uncertain. I should wait until the next review cycle. I do not want to seem ungrateful. I should be glad I have this job. I hear you. And I want to offer you a different frame. Every day you wait is a day the gap compounds. Not just in dollars, in what you believe you are worth and what you are accepting. The ask is overdue, not because you are greeting, because you have been doing the work and the conversation has been postponed long enough. You're just eating at yourself on the inside by waiting. Make the ask. You are not the problem. You never were. See you next week on the next episode. And before you go, the Leadership Collective that I started a few months ago is the community where we do this work together. Evidence audits, negotiation practice, story work, how to document your outcomes and impact, all of it with a group of women who have your back. And the link is in the show notes. And if you're ready to go even deeper, the Soul Code pre-launch begins April 6th. 4 Mondays, live with me, link below. We'll see you there. Take action. That's what the badass in you does. We'll see you in the next episode. If today's episode hit home, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. Because the best thing we can do is make sure no woman sits alone in an experience that has a name. You've been listening to enough already. I'm Coach Mo Fall. Please subscribe and like and comment so this can be sent to more women just like you who needs to hear there is a different way. Take good care.